In the Heat of the Night is not just about crimes in a seemingly peaceful southern town. The series reveals a quiet struggle between justice, fate, and secrets buried deep over time. But few people know that beyond the screen, the actors themselves face real-life tragedies. Some left the spotlight far too soon, while others battled illness and deep loneliness. And once the truth is revealed, these stories will stay with you forever. Chief Bill Gillespie stands at the moral center of a changing American South, where old prejudices are forced to confront modern justice. Born on August 2, 1924, Carroll O'Connor took on the role at the age of 63, delivering a restrained performance marked by his signature gravelly voice and a hardened gaze that gradually softens over time. Gillespie does not change through grand declarations, but through a series of small, often abrasive decisions. This journey of ideological transformation gives the series its enduring weight. Carroll O'Connor passed away on June 21, 2001, from cardiac complications at the age of 76, leaving behind an iconic television police figure that remains difficult to replace. Chief Hampton Forbes, the black police chief, marked by a calm demeanor and self-possessed authority, is portrayed by Carl Weathers as a model of leadership that exerts influence without ostentation. Born on January 14, 1948, Weathers took on the role at the age of 43, bringing both physical solidity and mature acting craft to create a clear counterbalance to the South's familiar social order. With a deep voice, emotional restraint, and a steady performance rhythm, he constructs an image of leadership grounded in presence rather than confrontation. Carl Weathers passed away on February 1, 2024, of natural causes at the age of 76, leaving a lasting imprint on American television. Captain Bubba Skinner, a local police officer imbued with Southern temperament and instinctive loyalty, is portrayed by Alan Autry as a familiar figure with considerable weight. Born on January 31, 1952, Autry took on the role at the age of 36, bringing a sturdy physical presence, an unpolished voice, and the straightforward bearing of an officer shaped by the local community. Bubba acts on intuition, placing greater value on camaraderie and deeply rooted traditional principles than on abstract theory. This plain, unaffected performance makes the character feel credible. At the age of 73, Alan Autry continues to be remembered as a representative figure of American television, strongly marked by Southern identity. Virgil Tibbs emerges as a symbol of black intellect and a historical counterweight within a Southern setting still burdened by racial discrimination. Born on October 17, 1950, Howard Rollins took on the role at the age of 37, bringing a composed demeanor, a sharp gaze, and absolute control to every tense exchange. Rather than reacting emotionally, Tibbs chooses precision, patience, and a mode of thinking that rises above circumstance, gradually rendering the surrounding prejudices out of place. Howard Rollins passed away on December 8, 1996, from complications related to lymphoma at the age of 46, leaving behind an image inseparable from the history of American television. Lonnie Jameson is positioned as a young man entering law enforcement before he is fully prepared to withstand the pressures of the profession and the expectations surrounding him. Born on April 7, 1962, Hugh O'Connor took on the role at the age of 26, conveying youthful inexperience through hesitant glances, emotionally unsteady reactions, and a strong desire for validation. Lonnie's path to maturity is far from smooth, constantly wavering between professional responsibility and personal vulnerability. Hugh O'Connor died by suicide on March 28, 1995, at the age of 32, leaving behind a performance marked by lingering sadness and reflection in American television history. Parker Williams brings a sense of everyday realism to the role of a rank-and-file police officer, where the job consists more of routine, repetitive duties than dramatic moments. Born on February 6, 1954, David Hart took on the role at the age of 34, employing a straightforward performance style, a friendly voice, and reactions closely aligned with real-life behavior. Williams does not occupy the center of major conflicts, but his steady presence helps make the world of the series feel more credible. Through this role, David Hart anchors the narrative in the daily rhythms of law enforcement work. At the age of 71, he is still remembered as a familiar face of American television in the late 20th century. Kelvin Peterson represents the local black community, marked by a quiet everyday life that nonetheless remains intertwined with the South's underlying social tensions. Born on July 10, 1946, Mel Stewart took on the role at the age of 42, portraying the character with a measured voice, a restrained gaze, and a manner closely connected to ordinary life. Peterson does not stand at the center of conflict, yet his presence enriches the social context in which the story unfolds. Through a restrained performance, Mel Stewart helps give the series a deeper sense of community. At the age of 78, he continues to be recognized as a familiar face of the American television, closely associated with socially grounded roles. Joanne St. John adds depth to Bill Gillespie's private life, shifting the focus to the role of a woman who stands in quiet support behind the scenes of a harsh professional world. Born on October 16, 1927, Lois Nettleton took on the role at the age of 61, delivering a mature performance marked by a warm, low voice, a compassionate gaze, and an unhurried rhythm. Joanne's appearances provide emotional balance, softening the rigid conflicts that surround her. Lois Nettleton passed away on January 21, 2008, from lung cancer at the age of 80, leaving a lasting impression through her portrayals of psychologically rich female characters on American television. Judge Roy Eversole represents the conservative legal authority of the southern United States, where justice operates within long-established traditions and entrenched social order. Born on July 19, 1924, Pat Hingle took on the role at the age of 64, bringing an air of authority through a deep voice, measured delivery, and an unyielding gaze. Eversole does not require heated argument. The judicial position itself establishes a clear distance of power. Pat Hingle passed away on January 3, 2009, from bone marrow cancer at the age of 84, leaving a profound legacy through his portrayals of stern and authoritative figures in American television. Red Jack emerges as an embodiment of rural crime, marked by raw violence and unrestrained instinct. Born on July 26, 1927, Chuck Hicks took on the role at the age of 61, bringing a heavy presence through a cold stare, a curt voice, and a demeanor perpetually poised for aggression. Without the need for elaborate schemes, Red Jack exerts pressure through direct brutality, evoking a constant sense of instability. Chuck Hicks passed away on February 15, 2008, from heart failure at the age of 80, leaving behind the familiar legacy of hard-edged villain roles on American television. Elmer appears as an everyday fragment of the local community, serving as a kind of background texture that makes the southern setting feel more authentic and alive. Born on February 15, 1929, Ted Mann took on the role when he was in his late 50s, bringing a plain-spoken demeanor, a simple voice, and an unhurried rhythm characteristic of a native local. Elmer does not generate major conflict, but his presence helps anchor the story firmly in ordinary social life. Ted Mann passed away on January 5, 2001, of natural causes at the age of 71, leaving behind a quiet yet enduring imprint on American television. Rhoda Gibson appears as a voice for black women on the margins of the community, where everyday life is inseparable from quiet resilience. Born on August 12, 1939, Fran Bennett took on the role at around the age of 49, delivering a mature performance through a firm voice, a seasoned gaze, and a calm, composed presence. Without the need for many words, Rhoda conveys the sense of a community that sustains itself amid lingering injustice. Fran Bennett passed away on September 12, 2021, from complications related to COVID-19 at the age of 82, leaving behind a lasting mark through her socially resonant roles on American television. Althea Tibbs presents the image of an independent, composed, and self-possessed woman, providing a necessary emotional counterbalance to the disciplined and tense world of Virgil Tibbs. Born on July 18, 1960, Anne-Marie Johnson took on the role at the age of 28, conveying steadiness through a firm voice, a direct gaze, and an attitude free of dependency. Althea does not stand behind others as a supporting presence. She appears as an equal personality with the strength to maintain her own boundaries and make her own choices. At the age of 64, Anne-Marie Johnson continues to be recognized as a model of the modern black woman on American television. Wilson Sweet embodies the image of a young police officer entering the profession with his ideals intact and a strong belief in justice. Born on January 20, 1970, Jeffrey Thorne took on the role at around the age of 21, conveying enthusiasm through a direct gaze, quick reflexes, and a demeanor not yet worn down by the realities of the job. This youthful quality creates a natural contrast with the more seasoned colleagues around him. Wilson Sweet adds a generational tone to the portrait of law enforcement. At the age of 55, Jeffrey Thorne continues to be known for his work as a writer and screenwriter, further extending his influence within American television. Sheriff Buck Ramsey carries the imprint of rural law enforcement and old authority, where order is maintained through habit rather than moral self-examination. Born on March 5, 1934, James Sicking took on the role at the age of 54, projecting a hard-edged demeanor, a decisive voice, and the confidence of someone long accustomed to leading an established system. His presence conveys stability while also exposing the limitations of conservative power in the face of social change. James Sicking passed away on January 13, 2024, from complications related to dementia at the age of 89, leaving a lasting imprint on American television. The deputy sheriff appears as an image of pure obedience in law enforcement, where duty is placed above personal judgment. Born on August 20, 1955, Ray Baker took on the role at around the age of 33. Bringing a disciplined demeanor, concise delivery, and procedural adherence characteristic of a subordinate officer. Though not a decision-maker, his presence helps clarify how the machinery of law operates through its smallest links. At the age of 69, Ray Baker remains known as a familiar face on American television, recognized for portraying reliable and steady enforcement roles. The Assistant District Attorney represents the legal face of justice, where the rule of law operates alongside judicial and political calculation. Born on April 24, 1955, Michael O'Keefe took on the role in his 30s, bringing a composed demeanor, tightly controlled dialogue, and the cautious reasoning of a prosecutor accustomed to working within legal gray areas. Power here lies not in action but in the ability to shape outcomes through argument and procedure. At the age of 69, Michael O'Keefe continues to be recognized as a representative figure for intellectual legal roles on American television. Harriet DeLong carries the moral weight of the black community, where individual choices are inseparable from broader social responsibility. Born on July 12, 1944, Denise Nicholas took on the role in her 40s, conveying maturity through a warm voice, a steady gaze, and a presence shaped by experience. Harriet does not impose moral standards, but instead suggests the boundaries between right and wrong through attentive listening and persistent persuasion. This manner of presence deepens the story's moral dimension. At the age of 81, Denise Nicholas continues to be cherished as a representative figure of American television associated with human and community-centered roles. Attorney Douglas appears as a sharp, confrontational lawyer, bringing intense legal debate into a space long accustomed to police authority and local order. Born on May 7, 1945, Richard Brooks took on the role at the age of 43, projecting confidence through a firm voice and a direct argumentative style, always ready to challenge established assumptions. Douglas's presence highlights the fragile boundary between justice and legal strategy. Richard Brooks passed away on June 8, 1992, from AIDS-related complications at the age of 47, leaving behind a brief yet memorable imprint on American television. Joe Don Baker embodies the raw authority and violence often associated with the American South, functioning more as a direct threat than as a character requiring extended psychological analysis. Born on February 12, 1936, he appeared in a guest role when he was already in his 50s, bringing a heavy physical presence, a cold stare, and an overpowering demeanor familiar from his earlier film career. His brief appearance is nonetheless sufficient to generate a sense of instability and unfiltered pressure. Joe Don Baker passed away on September 7, 2023, from lung cancer at the age of 87, leaving a distinct legacy of performances defined by force, violence, and power in American cinema and television. Kathy appears as a secondary emotional thread, offering moments of softness and pause amid the heavy atmosphere of crime and social conflict. Born on January 8, 1967, Tracy Needham took on the role in her early 20s, bringing youthful qualities, an emotionally expressive gaze, and the vulnerability characteristic of relationships still in the process of forming. Kathy does not propel the narrative through action, but through a feeling-laden presence that helps balance the story's psychological tone. At the age of 58, Tracy Needham is remembered as a familiar face of the American television, known for performances that are gentle yet emotionally resonant. Jessie appears as a slice of youth growing up in an environment of violence, where immaturity is forced to confront pressures far beyond its capacity. Born on November 17, 1976, Brandon Cole took on the role at around the age of 15, conveying fragility through a still uncertain gaze, direct emotional reactions, and a lack of preparedness for harsh reality. Jessie is given little room to develop, yet it is enough to suggest the cost of youth within an unstable context. At the age of 48, Brandon Cole is remembered as a familiar teenage face of the American television in the 1990s. Sergeant Luann Corbin introduces the image of a black female police officer working within a system long dominated by men, where competence must be proven twice over to earn recognition. Born on January 13, 1961, Crystal Fox took on the role at the age of 28, bringing a calm, assured presence and an understated sense of discipline. Corbin does not seek to dominate, but instead establishes her position through persistence and consistent professionalism. This restrained performance allows the character to stand firmly amid numerous invisible pressures. At the age of 64, Crystal Fox is recognized as a representative figure of strong black women on American television. The episodes may have come to an end, but the people behind In the Heat of the Night live on in the memories of the audience. Each role was more than just a character. It was a trace of lives shaped by struggle, loss, and resilience. Thank you for listening to the stories behind the spotlight, and as long as they are remembered, their legacy has never truly faded.